up everybody, I'm Sean and I am the best web developer in this video, and today we are talking about making your website user-friendly. This is the 8th video in a series on how to build a website with your own custom code, not using WordPress or another content management system. And if you missed the first 7 videos, check them out, they're all on our channel. Now, in web development, people talk a lot about UX/UI. UX is user experience and UI is user interface. Now, the two typically get grouped together and taught at the same time, sort of as one, UX/UI, although there is a difference between the two. UX is sort of the overall feel and experience users of a website get, whereas UI is the specific ways in which a user interacts with that website. However, for purposes of this video, we're covering essentially both, and that's why I decided to call it making it user-friendly instead of specifically UX or UI. Now, I admit, I personally didn't know hardly anything about user experience or user interface early on in my developer journey. I was doing code tutorials, even building some basic websites, only focused on making my code work. Does it work? I didn't care if it didn't look good, if the page looked like crap, or if it was an inconvenient experience for the user. I was only focused on making it work. However, thankfully, I have a friend who schooled me on the basics of UX and UI, and now I'm making some web pages that at least look a little bit better, and that friend knows who he is, and I'm sure he's watching. Now, user-friendliness is not nearly as complex of a topic as many other web development or coding topics. We're not talking about writing a billion-line long algorithm here. However, it is obviously very, very important because the way a user feels when they're accessing your website is going to determine whether or not he or she is likely to come back or even bother staying on the website for more than 5 seconds. And user-friendliness really comes down to 2 basic things. Does it look appealing? And does it work conveniently? It's an interesting dichotomy because we as coders like to be kind of nerdy and detail-oriented and complex, which is good. You need to be detail-oriented, but at the end of the day, the user does not want complexity. The user wants simplicity. A good coder in all branches of web development or programming is someone who can write code that accomplishes even the most complex tasks with very simple, minimal code. Minification is a very important concept in coding, and it's about what I just said, making your code as short and simple as possible while still accomplishing the task. Now, I do have to be honest with you here. If you, my oh-so tech-savvy friend, are going to build a website completely from scratch with your own custom code, which is what this series is all about, there are going to be parts of your code that are not quite that short and simple, and it's going to seem complex, but your job as a good coder is to turn that entire mess of complexity into something that at least looks simple for the user, simple to use when it's presented in the browser. Because I can almost guarantee you that your user, your target audience, wants things to be as simple as possible. And that's another thing, by the way. You need to define your target audience. Who are the people that are going to be accessing your website? Because that can ultimately affect how you're going to design it in certain ways. Now, one important aspect of this is just basic design principles, using colors that complement each other well or contrast each other well. Using gradients, for example, to gradually change the way the color of something looks can oftentimes make it look better. Picking the proper fonts, the right font size is bold, italic in certain situations. These little things all make a big difference. And the funny thing is, all of these little things are so easy to do, but sometimes we as coders overlook them because we're out there trying to write algorithms that cure cancer when really all we need to do to build a successful website is bold the title. Another big thing is that you want to make sure that navigation is easy for your users. As they're navigating through your website, going to different pages, different parts of a page, make sure that it's always easy for them to get back to the home page. And always make sure that you have an arrow or something like that so it's easy for them to get back to the top of the page when they've scrolled down for a while. You want to make sure that your buttons are very clear. You want to make sure it's very easy for the user to know, okay, where do I click when I want to navigate to this page or to this spot? Now, you also need to make sure that your web pages are accessible to people with disabilities. One of the many ways to do this, just to give you an example, is something called the HTML or the image alt attribute. So for example, when you have an image in your HTML, you can put the alt attribute to give a description for that image in case someone who's visually impaired is using your website with a screen reader, for example, the screen reader can read the description of that image. Now, these are just some of the basic things you need to take into consideration when making your websites mobile friendly. And if you missed it, check out the previous video on responsive design, because ultimately building a good responsive website, one that looks good on as many devices and screen sizes as possible, plays a big role in creating a good user experience for your site's visitors. Now I just want to reiterate two things that I mentioned towards the beginning. Making your website look appealing and making it work conveniently and simply for your users. If you do those things, then you've done a pretty good job of making your website user-friendly. And as I mentioned before, these videos are not full tutorials. If you're looking to get full tutorials on this stuff, I've got two links down below to two different UX, UI specializations. One of them is a bit cheaper, the other one is a bit more expensive, but it obviously goes more in depth if you want to invest a little more in it. That's it for this video. Next week's video is going to be on PHP, and I might end up going to war with some developers who don't like PHP, so stay tuned for that. Drop a thumbs up down below if you liked the video. Feel free to leave a comment. Let me know if you thought that this video was user-friendly or not. Hit that subscribe button to get notified of when the next video comes out, and click that link below to tomorrows-campus.com if you want to start your web development journey right now. We've got over 1,000 web development courses. Over 1,000 web development courses on all subjects. Whew. I said you'd become a good web developer if you watch this series. I didn't say anything about becoming a good English speaker. Anyway, guys, till next week, keep saving the world with the amazing code that you write every week. We're all counting on you. Peace out.